Well, hello scrappers, gold lovers. Welcome back to my channel. Mike here, and we have my homemade mill up here again. We're going to run some more stuff through it, and more importantly, later on in this video, you got to keep watching to find out. Later on in this video, we are going to announce the contest winner. Who came up with the best name for my homemade mill? What its new name is going to be? Who won the prize? So we are going to announce that down the road. Now, I want to crush up some more rock in this today and pan it out. And I've got two different samples over here. They both came from the same mine. But this stuff over here, this came off of one of its waste rock piles, like a lot of the stuff I've showed you in the past with either my Mighty Mill or with this thing. Just collected off the waste rock pile outside the mine. And might or might not have any value in it, okay? Might or might not have any gold. This stuff's a little different. It's weird looking, whitish, reddish, orangish white. This stuff was actually in the ore bin, about to be fed into their crushing and washing plant when they closed the mine down back in the 80s. And it had weeds growing out of it. You know, and it had just been sitting there in their ore bin since the mine had closed. So this is the stuff they were actually going to process to try and get metal out of it. Now, I was really excited when I found this. I'll put a link in the upper right to when we were sampling those mines that day out in Wyoming. I was really excited when I found this stuff because I thought, oh boy, this is the stuff they were about to process to get the gold out. Well, unfortunately, after we found that mine and visited and did our collection out there, I did some research on that mine and found out that it started out as a gold mine with some really rich gold ore chutes in it. But as the gold played out, it became an arsenic mine. And I've seen some assay reports on that mine, and the amounts of arsenic they were pulling out of there are just insane in terms of, ounces per ton of arsenic. So I'm going to wear a mask while I handle this stuff, and I'm going to wear gloves just because there might be some arsenic here, and I don't want to be breathing it, and I don't want to get it on my hands. So I'm going to process this stuff first, I think, and then we'll try some of the stuff from the waste pile. Some of this stuff might have been pulled out while they were still mining the rich gold, so there might be some gold in there, I'm hoping. And I'll tell you a little bit more about this mine as we're processing this stuff, as we're panning it out, because I need to go back there, because it was very rich when it was first, when they first found it and first started mining it. And unfortunately, most of the stuff I got here came from the waste pile outside of the main haulage at it. I did not realize there were a lot more workings up on top of the hill and older waste piles up there that might have been, a little richer. But I'll tell you more about that as we go. So let me get my dust mask on, and we will process some of this stuff through my soon-to-be-named mill, and then we'll pan it out and see if there's any value in it, or if this was just a waste of time collecting. It might be. They were still getting some gold, which, running the mine just mining arsenic, I don't think was profitable enough if they weren't getting some gold out of it, so there might be some gold in here. All right, let me mask up and we'll start up. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. And it's kind of a gloomy day. I hope it's not too dark. I didn't set up any supplemental lighting out here. So I'll start the vacuum cleaner first, and it's going to make a lot of noise. Move it over here a bit. And then I'll start this up. I still don't have the power switch on it. I've ordered a 15 amp toggle switch I'm going to mount on the side of the motor, but it hasn't arrived yet from Amazon. So when it gets here, I will install a power switch. But for now, we're still just plugging it in and unplugging it. Let me start the vacuum. settling down better. The clamps want to keep coming loose, and it keeps wanting to walk off of there. Definitely got to work on it. It's a work in progress still. It'll have a name after today, but it still needs some other improvements. And I may want some other suggestions from you guys on those improvements. Let's see how much stuff we got in the vacuum cleaner here. That's probably enough for a decent test to see if there's any value in that stuff. You know, if there isn't, I probably won't bother continuing processing it. But, oh yeah, I don't know if that's showing up, but there's a fair amount of dust in that bucket, which has gotten sucked in from the vacuum. So, we can process that and see if there's any kind of a trace of gold in it. So let's head over to the panning table and do that. Then we'll do some of the other stuff. Okay, let's get this first run of material panned out. If turns out there is some gold in here, I will run the rest of it at some point. If not, well, maybe I'll just fill in a low spot in the back 40 with it. So I got everything I need here. Got my loop, my mining magnets, got some jet drive for the water, reduce the surface tension so fine gold won't float on me. This over here where you can see what I'm doing. And while we're panning out, I'll tell you a little bit more about this mine. I was really excited, like I said, when I found that ore bin full of ore, ready to go through their processing plant, when they closed the mine down back in the 80s. And I thought, oh, this is going to be the good stuff. So I got a pretty good sample of it. And of course, I can always go back and get more. I know right where it is. But then after coming home and doing some research on this mine and realizing that at the time they closed, they were primarily a arsenic mine, I thought, well, you know, there might not actually be anything good in this stuff. So I guess we'll have to actually process some and find out. Yeah, and I need to go back. I talked in another video, and I'll put a link to that other video in the upper right. I talked in another video about the need to map out these old mine workings, because we found this when we were out there, and we took some samples, and well, come to find out later, I was just outside the main haulage at it, and over where they had all their workings, their plant for processing this stuff. They had an on-site mill, but yeah, we were at the bottom of the hill. And I had no idea there were a lot more workings up on top of the hill. Couldn't see it from where we were. And I looked at this on Google Earth and saw, oh, wow, yeah, there's a lot of stuff up on top of the hill we didn't even see. Let me pull a steel out of here. I'm sure there's going to be some steel. My homemade mill. Slowly self-destructing. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Get some steel there. Yep. The hammers inside and chains and the inside chamber, I'm sure, all slowly self-destructing as we run this thing. So, yeah. So anyway, we need to go back. I need to map out the actual, upper mine workings. There's a lot of tailings piles up there. They actually started mining up on top of the hill and worked their way down. They found a spot where a rich vein of quartz full of gold was outcropping up on top of the hill, and they started working down. They sunk a shaft deep down, and I found the assay reports, an actual underground map of this mine. Not going to tell you what it is or where it is, because I don't want us to have a rush of people out there, because I want to go back and get some more of this stuff if there's gold in it. Anyway, they worked their way down. They found a point where two quartz veins intersected, and it had insanely rich gold values in it. And they stoped out a huge area of that, and then they put in the haulage at it where I was getting samples from outside the mine at the base of the hill. They basically dug down because, it's a lot easier to let gravity do the work. You know, if you dig a shaft, deep shaft, and then a horizontal haulage added out of the side of the hill, you know, when you're stoping stuff down up at near the top of the hill, instead of using a hoist to drag it up and out, you can just drop it down, let gravity do the work, and then run it out horizontally on rail tracks out the main haulage at it. Miners are smart that way. They find ways to do things that require the least amount of effort, energy, and expense. So, yeah, so I didn't even see all those workings up on top of the hill. There's a lot of stuff up there. And it's going to be the older workings, too. And some of those waste piles up on top might have much richer stuff on it than the stuff I was getting off of the waste piles outside the haulage at it. So we need to go back and check that out. This has got some interesting looking stuff in it. It's got some very dark material in it. I don't know if that's magnetite. Well, yeah, it could be magnetite. I don't think all of this stuff is coming from my mill self-destructing. I think some of this stuff is magnetite in here. Yeah. There's a lot of dark stuff in here. Not really recognizing some of the stuff I'm seeing in here. It might be sulfides. A little different than what I'm used to seeing, but it might be sulfides. Get rid of this stuff here. And see if I can clean up this stuff up here a little better. Yeah, there's some dark stuff here. Usually when I see sulfides in this stuff, you know, like the arsenopyrite, the chalcopyrite, the iron pyrite, it's lighter colored. This stuff's pretty dark. It's pretty heavy though. It's staying in the pan, so I imagine it's some sort of metal sulfide. Let me look at this with my loupe and see if I can see any free gold in there. Loupe, indispensable. I just kicked the tripod again with my size 13. Sorry about that. But yeah, like I was saying, a loupe is just indispensable if you're looking for fine gold. Ooh. I see gold. I see a fair amount of gold, actually. See, I knew. Oh yeah, there's a lot of gold there. It's fine, but there's a lot of it. I'll try and get a picture with the macro on my phone. I think this is one of the best samples I've seen so far. There's a lot of gold there. But you see, I knew that if they were still operating that mine as an arsenic mine, they weren't going to be making enough profit to keep it going for as long as they did. I mean, this mine ran from like the late 1800s up to like the 1980s. And as an arsenic mine alone, they weren't going to be able to make that, you know, they weren't going to be able to make payroll. I figured they were still pulling gold out as a minor byproduct, and that was keeping them going. And sure enough, yeah, there is gold in here. Wife and I are going to have to go back out there and empty out that ore bin. Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can get a picture of this with the macro on my phone. Maybe it'll show up, maybe not. Well, it's kind of a gloomy day. But maybe that'll actually work in our advantage. We got this line of dark stuff here. Must be some kind of metal sulfide. But look above the line of dark sulfides between it and the bottom corner of the pan there. There's a lot of little flakes of gold up in there. I hope they're showing up. Yeah, there are a lot of flakes of gold in there. I would say dozens of them. Dozens and dozens. Some of them are really, really fine. Show up better in my loupe, but hopefully you're getting to see some of them on the phone. So yeah, wife and I need to go back and empty out that ore bin. It's got some good stuff in it. I need to crush that up and like run it through a sluice, a large amount of it, and capture this gold. Well, sweet. We got a lot of gold here. Nice. You know, relatively speaking, considering the amount of material I ran, there's a lot of gold there. Let me see if I can corral it. Get rid of a couple of these chunks. Corral the gold, and then suck it up with my snuffer bottle, which I inconveniently forgot to bring out. But I went and found it. I'm also going to suck up that black stuff, which I assume is some sort of metal sulfides. That may have gold trapped in it too. Now, I was talking about the arsenic they were mining, which is a little scary. But you know what? While I was crushing this stuff and while I've been panning it and handling it, I have not smelled the distinctive garlicky smell of arsenic once. So, I don't know. Maybe the arsenic is locked up in some of these sulfides, and it's not like free arsenic. I don't know. Still, I probably need to take some precautions. Alright. Let me make sure I've got all the good stuff out of this pan, and then we'll head back over to the soon-to-be named mill, and we'll soon find out, you know, who's going to win the grand prize for naming it. So we'll go back over to the mill. And, yeah, there's some more black stuff in here I need to suck up. Yeah. And we'll crush up some of the other sample I got and see if there's any good gold in it. Alright, so sweet. This stuff contains some decent gold. I'm going to have to run the rest of it through the mill here at some point in the very near future, I think, and get the rest of the gold out of that. And then we got to go back and clean out that ore bin. It's been sitting there since the 80s. Untouched, growing weeds out of the top of it. So yeah, and get that stuff out of there. But to keep this video from getting too long and tedious, I am going to run some of this stuff that I got from outside of the main haulage adits from the waste rock piles out there. Some of this stuff looks like it's got a lot of sulfides in it. So I'm going to run some of that, and we'll see if it has anything good in it. Okay, I got my mask on. Get the vacuum going. That's probably enough for a decent sample. Wow, this thing is handling this stuff really well. This stuff was kind of soft. This stuff is just uber hard quartz with lots of sulfides in it. So wow, it's handling it very well. I was kind of half expecting to have an on-camera failure of this because, you know, it's still fairly new. It's still got rough around the edges, but it's working. It's working. I'm surprised at how well it's working. Good job. Good job. I'll give you a name shortly. You're deserving of a good name. All right. Let me see how much stuff we've got in the vacuum here. Ooh, it's heavy. Oh, yeah. It is pulverizing this stuff, and it's all winding up in the vacuum. Got a lot here. We might have 2 panfuls here. Hope that's showing up. There's a lot of material in that bucket. All right, let's head over to the panning table. See if we can find any gold in this stuff. Okay, I cleaned out my pan really well after that first sample because I don't want any cross-contamination. There were a lot of small pieces of gold in that first sample. I wanted to make sure none of them carried over and gave me a false impression of how much gold was in this stuff. Yeah, we're going to do 2 pans. There's a fair amount of material here. All right. Let's see if there's any gold in this stuff. And when we go back to this mine, not only are we going to clean out that ore bin, like I said, I want to map out the workings on top of the hill and get some samples from up there. Because those older workings, the waste piles up there, they were probably digging in richer stuff, and I'm hoping they were throwing away as waste stuff that wasn't rich enough for them to bother with, but might be considered fairly rich ore by our standards today. Got some floaty stuff in here, in spite of the jet dry. That mill is just turning this stuff into such like talcum powder that it doesn't want to wet. It's hydrophobic. So, as well as mapping out the stuff up top, this stuff came from waste piles outside the main haulage adit. And let me tell you, so much material came out as waste on that main haulage adit. They actually, as they piled it up, they actually filled a whole valley with the waste material. And the creek that used to run down the middle of the valley is kind of backed up and made a swamp behind that big pile. And what I also want to do is map out. I can see that there's the stuff that they've dumped in that valley has changed over time, has come out in different batches. And I'm kind of suspecting that the stuff nearest the haulage adit was probably the first stuff to come out as they were digging that tunnel in to meet the stopes and the vertical shaft that they started from top. That stuff probably doesn't have a lot of value to it, I would think. But the later stuff that must have come out as they got further into the hill and got into the mineralized area, that might have some actual value to it. Again, it might have been stuff that they thought wasn't high enough grade for them to bother with, since they were digging towards the glory hole there, the stuff they really wanted. So I'm hoping that the stuff that came out of, you know, blasting the haulage adit later, towards the end, might have higher value. So I'm going to have to map out that area outside the haulage adit and the waste rock out there, and I can see that it came out in different batches. Find the batches that came out later and sample them. This is kind of a melange or mixture of stuff from that whole big area that was damming up that creek and filled the whole valley up. They filled that whole valley up level. Of course, I saw a map of the underground workings of this mine. It is pretty extensive, so they would have had to pull a lot of material out of there. Oh, there's all that dark stuff again. Let me get my magnet and see how much of it's steel and magnetite again. I'm pretty sure this is not all coming out of my mill. This looks like there's a lot of magnetite there, I'm thinking, in this stuff. Black sand, basically. Which is generally a good sign when you're looking for gold. Because black sand is heavy. Gold is heavy. If you're finding a lot of black sand, you might be into stuff that contains gold. I mean, it's not an absolute given, but it's often a good sign. I'm sure some of that is iron filings from the mill self-destructing slowly, but I think we got some black sand here too. In fact, I see some chunks of magnetite in here, I think. Yeah, magnet's not picking it up, so it's something else black. Not necessarily magnetite. So my 3/16 inch screen is letting some big chunks through. I might have to go with a finer screen. Or sift the stuff before I put it in the pan. I could do that. I could sift the stuff before I put it in the pan. Get the big chunks of rock out, because they do kind of get in the way. Let's see what we got here. Let's see if there anything here. Well, I'm not for sure seeing any gold. Let me rework this stuff a little bit here. See if I can walk any gold up to this corner of the pan here. Look again. Oh. Maybe. Let me go out, even under my light here, it's not that bright. Let me go out, even though it's a gloomy day, out in the open and have a look at this. Well, I saw a couple of things that I thought were gold in here, but out in the brighter light, I'm not really... I couldn't swear to court of law that there's any gold in this pan. Let me put it that way. But this did come from the waste rock piles, not from the ore bin. Let me suck up these sulfides in here, just in case they do contain something. Here it is. Big chunks. Yeah, I may have to do something about that, either screen it before it goes in the pan or put a finer screen on the mill. But a finer screen would just plug up quicker, so I don't know. I'm thinking maybe screening it before I pan it would probably be a good idea. Yeah. But I'm going to suck up these sulfides just in case they contain anything. And someday I will smelt all the stuff in this snuffer bottle, all the little bits of free gold in there and all the sulfides, and we'll see if there's anything in it. Alright, let me wash this stuff out. We'll pan out this last little bit of stuff and see if there's anything in it. Not getting my hopes up too high, but you never know. Yeah, I do love poking around old mines. Not just gold mines, I've been to uranium mines and silver mines and whatnot. I'm not one of those types of people who normally goes in them because they're very dangerous. Very, very dangerous on the inside. You know, and often I'm out there by myself or just with my wife, and, you know, we don't have the proper, like, equipment and stuff. You know, we don't have gas sniffers. And, you know, you probably want to be roped off in a lot of those mines just in case there's, you know, it goes really vertical on you. There's false floors. There's, you know, it's pretty dangerous. So I tend to stay out of the mines. But hey, those old-time miners, they brought a lot of stuff to the surface for me already. It'd be nice to go inside someday and prospect for, you know, decent veins left behind. I'll probably need to get with a group of people that know what they're doing with that. I can climb around on the surface, but never spent much time underground. Yeah, and like I say, I love the old mines. It's great to see, you know, all of the old equipment and technology. Some of these mines, they date way back into like the mid to late 1800s, and you see stuff laying there that's, you know, really old boilers and steam engines and compressors and stuff. But this particular mine, like I say, it ran until the 1980s. And a lot of the equipment laying around there is, you know, 70s, 80s vintage. It's not that old, although it's rusting away pretty quickly out there in the desert. I kind of wish I had their wash plant. Although it's got a nice. They had their own mill out there. Whatever company was running the mine towards the time it closed, they had an entire mill there on site, portable, on trailers. They had a big jaw crusher, and they had a trommel and sluices, recirculating sluices, and they would just take the ore out of the mine, run it through the jaw crusher, which is, I got the stuff we processed first time around out of the ore bin that would have fed the jaw crusher at the beginning of their plant there, beginning of their mill. You know, and I'll tell you what, their trommel and sluice setup is amazing, but it's just sitting out there rotting away in the desert. It's all rusty. The tires are all dry rotted away. The thing's sitting on its rims. All the belts and hoses are rotted away. I don't know what all this black stuff in here is. It's not all magnetite. I mean, there is some magnetite here. There's no doubt about it. Some black sand. But I don't know what. Some of the stuff in here is not at all attracted to my magnet. I don't know what it is. There's a fair amount of it, too. Could be big chunks of some sort of dark sulfide, I guess. I'll have to do some more research on sulfide compounds. Or I'll do some more research on arsenic compounds. This might be some kind of arsenic sulfide. Not arsenopyrite, that's for sure. I know what that looks like. But this is something else entirely. I don't know what it is. Huh. Weird. Looks like magnetite, but it's not. Ooh. What is that? Where did it go? I thought I saw a big red garnet crystal, but now I can't find it again. Sometimes you find big red garnet crystals in here. Oh, wait a minute. There it is. There it is. Yeah, it's embedded in the side of one of these black pieces. There's a little red garnet crystal. I'll see if I can get a close-up look at that later. Found garnet crystals before. Wife and I were out panning once on a creek, and we found a spot that was just, you know, we found a little bit of gold, but my goodness, our pans were just loaded down with garnet crystals. It's crazy. This pan's not really looking any different than the last one, but wasn't really expecting any better. Came from basically the same source, right? Let's see if I can walk any gold up to that corner. Again, let me go look at it in better light. Well, nope. Can't swear there's any gold in this pan again. So, yeah, and you know, I was kind of expecting that after I did some research on this mine. The area where this stuff came from, outside the main haulage at it, I'm sure a lot of that was just, those ore piles were from digging the main haulage at it, right there. Because it goes into the hill a long way to intersect the vertical shafts and stopes in there. But like I say, there may be sections of it that are good, because as they went into the hill, they would have got into the mineralized area, and they may have been dumping stuff that they thought wasn't worth their effort. So we'll definitely go back to that mine, get the stuff out of the ore bin, look at the stuff up on top of the hill, and maybe map out that main waste pile a little better that's blocking the whole valley up. There might be some good spots on it. So that's a project for next summer. All that's under snow right now out there. It's about a week and a half before Christmas, and they've been getting a lot of snow out there in that part of Wyoming. It's up in the mountains high, so it is buried under feet of snow, I'm sure. Okay, let's head over to the mill again. We got unfinished business over there. All right, we're about to have the big unveil of the newly named mill. But first, clear up a couple of things. Yes, I will definitely run the rest of this stuff at some point. I won't do it right now to keep this video from getting too long and tedious. and pan out the rest of the gold in it. We'll go back and get more. This stuff, I don't know. I didn't see any gold in the samples I ran just now. I may run a little bit more later just to be ensure that there's nothing good in it, but probably there isn't. I may just use this to fill in a low spot out. And we got acreage here. And when we're low, we flood. I just take my junk rock and I fill in the low spot. So that's probably what will happen with that. So let's talk about the contest to name this thing. We have a winner. Someone suggested a really great name. In my humble opinion, the only one that really counts, okay? So, yeah, let's talk about some of these submissions. Thank you all for your submissions. There were a whole lot of them. I spent quite a while looking through the comments on both videos where the contest was open to find the name I liked. So there were a lot of repetitions. Mikey Mill was very popular, with references, included by some people to the cereal commercial. Mikey likes it, yeah. But that was very, very popular. And hey, it's just a little too self-referential for me. Maybe I don't have that big an ego. Well, on the other hand, I do put a lot of my life on YouTube, so maybe I do have that big an ego. But still, I don't think I'm going to go with Mikey Mill. Besides, I don't want to give out 15 or 20 of my mystery boxes to people who all came up with that name. Another popular name was Omega Mill, which, yeah, I like that a little better. It kind of references the channel more than me. But still, I think we can do better. Several people said Mightier Mill, which is kind of a dissing of the Mighty Mill. But I like the Mighty Mill. It's my buddy. I'm going to have a lot of fun with that out west this summer. When we're out there in Arizona, Wyoming, and poking around old mines, I'm going to have a lot of fun with the Mighty Mill, I think. So, yeah, we're not going to diss the Mighty Mill and call this Mightier Mill. Quite a few people actually came up with the MC Hammer reference. Call it MC Hammer, call it Hammer Time, call it MD Hammer, whatever. A lot of references to that. Let's see. Abelesky called it the Flailminator. That's a pretty good name. That's got some originality to it. Somebody's thinking there. One Hawaii guy suggested Nugget Buster. That's not bad. That's pretty good. Flailure. Well, after the first video, it was a flailure, but I think it's working pretty well now, so I think we'll set that name aside. Flailure was thought up by OK Boomer. Let's see, Rock Gobbler by Paul Clark. That's not too bad. Let's see, Pete's Gold Recovery suggested Thor, since it depends on hammers. So yeah, that's kind of neat. Let's see. I cannot pronounce this. I don't think it's even meant to be a name. GRZLBR. He had two pretty good submissions. Pulverator was one. And the other was Crushosaur, which, I'm actually wearing a Tampa Bay Fossil Club shirt, and I am going dinosaur hunting this summer out in the Wyoming Badlands. So, yeah, Crushosaur. I'd probably call it Crushosaurus if it was me. But let's see what else we got here. Scrappy Mill, because we'll eventually be running scrap through it. So, yeah, that's possible. Big Nasty by Mag the Magnificent. I kind of like Big Nasty, but you know what? I think we can do better. So, what is the name I chose? Well, let's have the big unveil. That's right. It's the Smash-O-Matic. Oh, Grambo 5000 suggested Smash-O-Matic. And when I saw that, it took me back to my youth and all the Ronco commercials on TV. Everything was O-Matic. Everything was O-Matic. So it's the Ronco Smash-O-Matic. It smashes rocks, it slices, it dices, it juliennes, it makes your life easier. It's the Smash-O-Matic. I love it. It's absolutely perfect. So I'm going to get this permanently painted or engraved on there as Smash-O-Matic. So thank you very much, Grambo 5000, for that suggestion. It's absolutely perfect. I love it. And since I love it, that's what it's going to be. The rest you don't have to like it. Okay, sorry, that's just the way it is. Build your own mills. So Grambo 5000, contact me so I can send you your prize, your mystery box. It would probably be best if you left another comment in this video from your Grambo 5000 account at YouTube with maybe your email address or something in it. I'll delete that comment after a while so it won't be there to collect spam. But I just want to make sure I'm actually talking to you and somebody else isn't trying to claim your prize, because that's a thing that happens, okay? So Grambo 5000, get with me and I'll get you your prize. Thanks for coming up with the name. And there were a lot of other comments in the 2 videos I've posted, and I'm sure this one's going to generate even more, about potential problems that this still has, solutions, suggestions for those potential problems, ideas for new and better hammers, all kinds of good stuff, and I thank you all for that. I'm going to take some of those ideas to heart. Like I said, eventually the hammers I have in here are going to fail and they're going to need to be replaced. And even though those cable clamps are really easy to weld up some new replacements, I might be thinking about some better ideas in the future. Maybe some more permanent ideas. And some of you had some really good ideas along those lines, so thanks a lot for sharing them. And if you got any other good ideas, feel free, leave a comment. Thanks. And yeah, because it's a work in progress. It's got a long ways to go. In fact, speaking of work in progress, now that I've got this thing working, I don't want it to look so grungy anymore. It's all sitting out here. It's got surface rust on it. The environment out here is just terrible in Florida. It's so humid. The iron steel just rusts up so bad. So I'm going to take this thing all apart, and I'm going to sandblast the rust off of it, and I'm going to prime it and paint it, and make it look a little less grungy, a little less amateurish, a little less like it's about to fall apart any minute. It might, but I don't want it to look like it's going to. So, hey, leave a suggestion about what color you think I ought to paint it. I already have an idea in that department, but maybe you can convince me there's something better out there. Change my mind. Okay? So, leave a comment on that. And also let me know, do you want to see the process? Or would it be boring of me taking this thing apart, sandblasting it, painting it, making it beautiful, and putting it back together? If you want to see the process, let me know. I'll film it. If it's meh, then I won't bother. Okay? Alrighty. Well, I think that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all your suggestions. Thanks for the name suggestion there, Grambo 5000. Love it. Absolutely love it. It is the Smash-O-Matic. So, if you found this video at all interesting, educational, informative, whatever, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to see future videos, some of which will star the Smash-O-Matic. Subscribe to see those future videos. Press the little bell icon YouTube wants you to press to be notified when new videos come out. And check out my second channel, ElectroGeek64. Lots of good content there. More coming soon. Really interesting stuff. Electronics and retro computing. If you're all interested in that, check it out. And thanks a lot again for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye.